Karma proud.
Yeah, but you're going backwards. You're making
We've
melee
also managed to be grateful
totems.
howl and walk, but unfortunately that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with. So we
Which is in the
significantly upped the chance to
coding.
hit at close ranges.
Hello and welcome to this video. Now, we're going to do the intro, skip ahead to the actual reveal, but let's do the intro. Now, one thing I will say without even knowing what's going to happen, don't play all the hype builds that are about to come out in the next week or so. One, play a tried and tested build. The builds that will be theory crafting, all the hype sort of builds and all the build up hype theory craft type things won't be able to be tested or anything. So any bugs, anything wrong, damage numbers, you'll be stuck with that. So level up a character, even a totally different class, which is tried and tested. Get your currency, even if it's just enough currency to level another character easily. Pick up some weapons, maybe. Remember, run Magic Find. Unless by some miracle they've fixed the how loot drops and everything, you need Magic Find through the campaign to actually get a decent amount of drops. So try to get Magic Find. But ignore what happens in the first week, because this is pretty much what's going to happen. Day one, most of the top content creators will go from login to endgame. The there'll be a few skills that are bugged and doing ultra damage. They'll be fixed in 12 to 18 hours, maybe a day, depending on how GGG wants to play it. If a lot of people are playing it, they might leave it for longer. Less people, they'll probably fix it sooner. The second and third day, a lot of the top streamers will earn their first 100 plus divines. The fourth to sixth day, there'll be a collection of loot explosion videos, one-shotting boss videos, pretty much must play this build showcase type things, and it would just make the price extravagant for a lot of items. And take the last PoE league, the Forbidden Rider Sacrifice. There was pretty much the going build was worth 600 to 700 divines minimum, couple of mirrors on average. I personally proved that they didn't have to do that. That was just for video and clicks and just show, and the fact that they had hundreds of divines within the first 48 hours. I proved that you could do it on a budget. So do not just fall into that hype sort of, I must play this because it looks cool, I must play because other people are playing. Play something tried, true, tested. I'm going to play, unless for some reason they have done this before, they have nerfed skills that didn't need nerfing, they weren't that overpowering, but they've nerfed it just because they don't want people playing a certain way or whatever. They like some of the skills they nerfed in PoE 1 this league. It's why? No one understood why they nerfed so heavily some skills, and then other skills that needed the nerf, they barely touched. So, unless they do something crazy like that, I have a sort of what I'm going to do and everything. I assume they're going to add one or two classes. I assume, based on the way they're going, probably a magic base or either a shadow or a Templar style, maybe a hybrid, but Shadow Templar would fit into the sort of thing. But yeah, I'm expecting it to look cool, sound cool. I want to see it to believe it type sort of attitude. Unlike PoE 1, I don't have a lot of faith in their delivery. Just out of the sort of lead up that PoE 2 has had, it's a very, I hope they haven't wrecked the game sort of reveal. Not like Path of Exile 1. What are we going to get? What can we play with? What can we sort of do? But yeah, if anything at all you take away, do not play whatever the new shiny skill is. They'll probably add, if they add a character or two, there'll be 40 to 80 new skills. If they don't add a new character, there'll probably be 60 skill rework, probably 100 support rework or whatever. Just play your tried and true tested, get your character going, get your stuff going, and then play from there. Because it will save you hours and hours and hours in the long run. But let's skip ahead to when we're actually going to find out all the reveal, and they're going to say, hello, I'm blah blah blah, sorry for blah blah blah, thank you blah blah blah. 3, 2, 1.
To GGG Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of what's coming next.
Karui! I have called you here to save our people. To save our way.
So tattoos are eventually going to be a thing?
We have known pain like no other. But we endured. And we became mighty. Now, outsiders dishonor our shores, and we have stood by, doing nothing. Hear my voice, ancestors. Show us your strength. Show us the true way. I understand.
Spiritborn? Settlers of Kalga 2.0. Ultimatum boss.
The true Lakura Makoi will rise.
About time they fixed it. Abyss. Reworked Abyss, eh? Interesting. It's a chaos. Probably be a big thing.
Now, as you can see, there's a lot going on, and we have a lot to reveal today. We'll start by going over Act 4, the next chapter in the Path of Exile 2 storyline. But that's not all. There's also 3 new interlude acts to get you to endgame, which means we're removing Cruel Difficulty 2. After that, we'll be going through the massive changes to characters. I'm super excited to show you how I've overhauled the entire support gem system, added new skills, and yes, there are buffs. Next, we'll go over the Rise of the Abyssal. this season's exclusive league mechanic and talk about the new rewards, crafting systems, areas, and bosses that it adds. After that, it's on to changes we're making to the endgame. Then it's time to talk about items, crafting, and oh yeah, trade. That's going to be a big one. We'll then go over our new supporter packs and finish up with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile 2's game directors, myself and Mark, your questions from Twitch chat. And after that, at 4 p.m. Pacific, patch notes. They're not quite complete, but they should give you some nice details to
Can't
chew
even
on.
do patch notes properly.
We've got a lot to cover today, but first, another announcement. When the third edict launches on the 29th, we'll be having a free weekend for Path of Exile 2. That's right, Path of Exile 2 will be free for the first time without requiring an early access key. The free weekend
That's
will
right,
end
it's
on
so
September
terrible
1st,
we have to give it
so you'll have
away.
plenty of time to give the game a try. Alright, let's get started with Act 4. The story continues from the end of Act 3. Doryani has agreed to help you find an ancient weapon that can be
In
used against
Settlers of
corruption.
Calgar.
Instrument of the Third Edict. The weapon was broken in ages past, but he believes that the pieces may be found in the Karui
Abyss.
archipelago. the
I'd
home
say
of the
that
Karui tribes.
main hole is...
You will need to journey to Kingsmarch.
Come
hire
up
a
with
ship,
new
and
areas.
set sail. When you open the map, you can choose to sail anywhere you like.
Boat League.
Act 4 is completely non-linear, and you can visit the islands in any order you choose. Will you visit the pristine beaches of Whakapanu Island?
Excuse
The
me?
Karui whisper of a curse that afflicts all who travel there. Perhaps it's related to the weapon you seek. Or maybe you will visit the volcanic shores of the Isle of Kin. The Kin have been more restless recently, mining for sulfite and driven by some dark force. Perhaps you will choose to consult with one of the local Karui tribes. Their ancient wisdom could hold clues to finding the Third Edict. No matter where you choose to go, you will fight dangerous beasts.
Just looks like the reveal for Diablo
fabulous
4
treasures.
Spiritborn.
And battle incredible
Monkey.
bosses.
A challenger!
Wukong.
You must seize your soul!
I think that's what...
There are 8 islands to
That
discover,
thing's called?
each teeming with its own flora and fauna. Act 4 contains over 100 new monster types, 16 new areas, 12 new bosses, and plenty of other interesting encounters. There's a huge amount to show, but we're not going to spoil too much here. We want to give you a chance to discover it all for yourself.
So the game's
happens
got
after
hardly any
Act 4?
content because I've been
Well,
working
until
on
now, you
naked
had to repeat
ladies.
the entire campaign again before you could face the endgame. But after adding Act 4, the game is far too long to make you do that. We needed something else to do in between the end of Act 4 and the endgame. So what else could we do? Add 3 new mini-acts, of course, and we're calling them the Interludes. The Interludes are a set of 3 temporary side stories that will be included in the game until Act 5 is released, that will take you to level 65 where the endgame can begin. The first interlude sends you on a journey back to Ogham. Renly has been leading the efforts to rebuild Ogham Village after the defeat of Count Geonor, but there's a new danger afoot. The nearby town of Holton is surrounded by an impenetrable darkness, and each night their corrupted townfolk emerge to raid the local farmlands. You will discover new areas and new bosses.
Synthesis style.
You'll need to find your way through the darkness, uncover the source of corruption,
Soon you will serve our master.
and defeat it.
Yes, I shall dance with their corpse.
And that's just the first interlude. The second interlude will have you return to the Vasteri Desert, where Asala has been given a sacred duty. When the skies align, the gifting of water requires a chosen Sekima to meet with the Selkari, guardians of the sacred water, but they're nowhere to be found. You will need to track down the Selkari, find those responsible for disrupting the gifting, fight even more new bosses, discover the secrets of the ancient ritual, discover new locations, and ultimately help Asala carry out her sacred duty. Now for Interlude 3. As Royal Thaumaturge of the Val, Doryani had plans within plans to save his people from the cataclysm perpetuated by Atzeri's lust for power. One such plan involved sealing a group of willing Val deep in a great mountain vault near the home of the
Mount
Azamiri,
Ararat.
deep enough to survive the cataclysm.
Do we have to fight
Even though
Baal?
thousands of years have passed, he believes that their descendants may still live, and may be key to defeating the beast. The journey up the mountain will be dangerous. New foes stand in your way. And the further up the mountain you venture, the colder it will become. Explore caves of ice, and enter the vault itself. Who can say what you will find within?
Ultimatum, probably.
Interludes are 6 to 7 areas each, and generally include 4 boss fights as well. When you put that together with Act 4, that adds up to 35 new areas in the campaign, and 24 new bosses. It's worth making clear that the interludes are temporary. When Act 5 and 6 are added, the interludes will be going away.
So,
These are side stories after all. But don't worry, the bosses and areas that make up the interlude are all part of the endgame. We're not just going to throw them away. And with that, we don't need cruel difficulty anymore. We do know that it was a pretty big chore to have to play through the campaign multiple times on each character, and this was a huge reason that the campaign could feel like a bit of a slog when playing through again. But we do also have another new feature to address that particular concern as well. So let's talk about sprinting.
does he have a hairy jumper?
In 030, when you hold down the dodge roll button, your character will go into a sprint after they finish the roll. This is available on all character classes,
What?
and there's no limitation on how long you can sprint for. The primary purpose of this feature is to make navigating areas faster when out of combat. Because of that, if you do take a hit while sprinting, you'll fall to the ground.
Oh, that's just stupid.
The best idea is to use a skill when you see monsters. That'll break you out of the sprint so you can engage with no danger.
Just add more movement speed
If
or
you do need to run away
shrink
from
the
monsters,
map.
just hold spacebar. You won't be vulnerable during the roll, and you're faster while sprinting than basically any monster in the game, allowing you to retreat from combat. Sprint is a pretty significant change to PoE 2's gameplay. What I like most about it is that we can accelerate the pace of the game for those who want that, without having to compromise on PoE 2's more visceral combat systems.
The
Okay,
combat system
so that's the new
sucks.
extensions to the campaign, but there's a whole giant league to play through as well. I'll leave that to Mark to talk about later. And that's because what I want to talk about now is the new stuff for your characters. And probably one of the biggest new systems here is with the support gems. Now, support gems are one of the most interesting elements to creating a build.
They're going to let you
They would
double
enable
up,
so
probably.
many interesting mechanics and different ways to play. But PoE 2's support gem system has just never been quite right. One of the major issues is the limitation of only having one support gem of each type on your character. We didn't want builds to just become using the same 5 most powerful supports in every skill.
Don't have
The
crap
problem with
builds.
this design, though, is that it's actually working against using multiple skills in your build. If you can only use
Duh.
each support gem on one skill, it means that you're encouraged to go all in on that one ability. And we want to encourage you to combo your abilities, something needed to change.
Everyone
So with
knew
in
that
mind,
except for
remove the
them.
restriction of having one of each support gem per character. You can now use as many copies as you like. This should drastically increase the amount of possible builds
No.
and increase the amount of skill diversity.
No. Bad
There
skills
a lot
are
of
still
potential
bad.
builds that suffered from the previous restriction. For example, a poison build previously couldn't add poison to more than one skill. They couldn't use stacking poison on more than one skill either. This severely limited your ability to combo with anything outside of the specifically designed poison archetype, but now you can. Many utility skills previously couldn't scale to endgame, because the supports that would make them scale were more useful to use on other skills. You would never speed up killing Palm with martial tempo, when you would much rather use it on your primary skill instead. There are more examples like this all over the place.
Standing in one spot
In addition
killing
to that,
monsters
though,
is
we thought there
not
wasn't enough
fun.
feeling of progression of the supports as you went through the game. There were only 3 tiers of supports, and many of the most important ones were given out at tier 1. Also, there were no strict upgrades, meaning that upgrading supports when you ran out of sockets required quite a lot of thinking. In order to solve these issues, we now also have multiple levels of many supports as you go through the game. For example, double barrel support gives you an extra bolt, but at the cost of 30% less reload speed. At tier 2, the penalty gets lowered to 20%. But then at tier 3, the support gem gets something new. It now reloads automatically when you heavy stun an enemy. In some cases, the highest tiers might work a little differently, and you'll have to decide if you like the upgrade or not, depending on your build. For example, rapid casting. The first couple of levels gives 15, then 20% increased cast speed. But then at tier 3, it changes to a new approach. For each different spell you cast in the last 8 seconds, you get 10% increased cast speed.
I personally
It's a
hate
big
that.
bonus if you use a lot of different spells. So that's pretty good for upgrades through the campaign.
Forcing you to
But we wanted
use
to add a little
multiple
more spice to the
spells
endgame for
is...
supports too. And that's where our new system,
I
unique
hate it.
supports, comes in. You can think of these like unique items, but for supports. There are supports that are only available at endgame, but they're much more powerful. Like Ratha's Assault. It's an upgraded version of double barrel that reloads your skill as you dodge roll, as well as increasing the number of bolts it can hold. But it does mean that it's the only way you can reload the skill now. Now, unlike regular supports, you can't find these through the uncut support gem. Just like unique items, many of these can be found from specific bosses. And there's a ton in the regular drop pool too.
Magic find
Some of them are fairly
to
rare,
get that stuff to drop.
others fairly common. Some of them are build defining. Others are just straight up power upgrades.
Melee's going back to totems. Yay!
All in all,
Not.
there's around 40 lineage supports being added throughout the endgame, so there's a lot of power to find out there. Now, the new support gems are certainly going to open up a lot of builds, but of course we have a huge range of improvements to individual character classes as well. As
Yeah,
well
I
as
can't
adding
get
new
over his
skills,
hairy
we had
jumper.
a big focus on buffing existing skills so that they can scale well into the endgame. There's a huge amount to cover here, so we're not going to discuss everything. We're just going to quick fire through some of the coolest changes. We wanted to make cold a more useful element on the Ranger, so we've expanded the cold tools available.
It's not killing anything.
As well as increasing its range, Escape Shot now creates fragments of ice whenever it hits the ground. These fragments explode after a short time, making the skill better for killing groups of enemies. But not only that, we added an ice
Totally
fragment
missed.
support that creates more of them when killing frozen enemies.
Yeah, it's not killing anything.
And a new buff skill called Ice Tip Arrows that allows all your arrows to create ice fragments. This already gives clear to rangers wanting to use ice, but to take further advantage of the ice fragments, freezing
Still
salvo
not
has been
doing
upgraded to shoot
anything.
additional cold arrows towards every fragment, giving you a nuke-like ability. We've also modified Snipe to consume frozen from enemies, dealing a huge amount more damage, giving you a nice ice single target option. And something you might notice about this is that the bonus is a lot higher against bosses. This is actually a change you'll see throughout the entire game. Since it's a lot harder to freeze a boss, you should get a bigger reward for it.
That boss was shocked. That's the damage.
Another theme you'll see throughout the game is making movement feel better. Toxic Growth is a skill that was pretty cool, but a bit annoying to use with the jump that it
It's
had.
annoying to use in PoE 1.
Now Toxic Growth is a
part
range
of the
skill,
build.
so you can spam it more easily.
But
And we've also
toxic
added a new poison skill while we
rain
were at
or
it, called Toxic Domain.
plague or whatever.
It creates a small area
Same thing.
around you that makes all your attacks create toxic growth pustules, but attached to monsters. Another skill that was annoying to use was electrocuting.
Path of Exile,
It's now just a
last
regular arrow,
epoch
making
is
it easier to use. But it also means
Something
you
like
can
that.
support it with projectile supports. And it now also has area of effect, making it a tool for more than just single target, and allowing it
It's
to
not
scale into
killing
the-
anything.
We also added a new spirit reservation called Mirage Archer. This
Really?
is a meta skill that allows you to create shadowy clones of yourself to use a skill of your choice.
They'd want to do giga
Of course, one of the
damage.
other big problems the Ranger had was survivability. Evasion was the weakest of the three defenses, and we wanted to change that. Currently, evasion doesn't evade all types of hits in the game, so you're still vulnerable to things like slams or unblockable attacks. To make evasion characters more tanky, we're adding a new mechanic called Deflect. Unlike evasion, Deflect works on everything. And if you
40%
successfully deflect the
damage.
hit, you take 40% less damage. Items can now give you a mod that gives you some amount of deflection based on your evasion. And there's a bunch of it available on the passive tree too.
So you lose mods.
Deflection is rolled in addition to evasion, so this is an upgrade for regular hits too. And
You
unlike
lose
evasion,
power.
There's no maximum chance. You can reach 100% deflect against all hits if you spec into it enough. Of course,
Losing
this is a
power.
buff that helps all Dex characters, so the Mercenary and the Monk, but especially the Huntress, are seeing big defense boosts from this as well. Speaking of defensive mechanics, let's talk about block and parry. Now, one of the big concerns on the release of the Huntress was parry feeling unreliable. One of the big
It
reasons
sucked.
for this is there's a lot of hits that are not blockable, and thus not parryable either. So a huge balance change we're making is that now everything is blockable, except for specifically unblockable red flash skills that bosses use.
Go away.
This makes parry much more reliable. And not only that, but to make block and parry nicer to use, you now also move faster than before while using these abilities. This is a massive buff to passive block as well. So to counter that, we did have to lower the max passive block a bit, but overall you should feel much safer. Fire skills on the warrior were not really cutting the mustard, so we decided we needed to upgrade a bunch of them, but also add some more as well.
That would want to be
Let's start with the buff.
beforehand.
Volcanic fish are now branches into multiple
It's not
fishes,
killing
and they have
anything.
much more clearing potential.
How do you not, as a
We also have
developer,
a new skill called Forge Hammer. This skill throws a molten hammer that does a slam
Hammer
at a
throw.
distance. You can recall the hammer back by using the skill again if you like, but the cooler thing to do is to use a war cry near it. Using a war cry makes the hammer explode, making a bunch of volcanic fishes around. Volcanic fishes re-trigger when you slam them, so it's a great skill to make a flaming arena to fight a boss.
armor shredded?
We also buffed Perfect Strike to have a much larger area of effect, and changed Molten Blast to not always force you to move forward. Trust me, it feels a lot better to use now. This skill now has massively boosted chance to ignite monsters as well. And you're going to want to ignite monsters due to a new glory skill called Ancestral Cry. Ancestral Cry charges up with glory by igniting monsters, invoking King Kaum's favor. After you do, use it to channel Kaum's ancestral
dead.
power. Every attack will be ancestrally boosted with fire. Your very steps will explode, triggering volcanic fishes, and molten balls will erupt from your attacks.
So you do no damage, no
Warrior
damage,
shield
no
skills were
damage,
another
no
area we
damage,
wanted to improve.
damage.
Now that we've got Sprint, we actually don't need to have a cooldown on shield charge anymore. It now also does more damage the further away you are when you use it. Shield Wall got significantly upgraded AoE. Also, you can shield charge right through it to trigger all the walls. We also added a new shield war cry. Fortifying Cry gives you a defensive buff, but it also builds up charge on your shield that empowers your other shield skills. And Magma Barrier now doesn't require timing in order to use. Just wait for your shield to charge up and block.
How over leveled is
enemies
this
that are
guy
prone to
going
stun.
through the area though?
And we changed the Sunder interaction with Armor Break. It now also gives a Sundered Armor debuff that makes enemies take 40% extra physical damage. Great for bosses. Ancestral Warrior Totem has undergone some pretty significant changes too. We wanted the skill to feel more like using an ultimate. That summoning an ancestor to fight for you was a big deal. So we've changed this totem to require 3 endurance charges to summon, and massively buffed its damage. It also now scales with your weapon damage too. Since there's no limit anymore, if you build around generating endurance charges, you can summon an entire forest of totems. In order to make that easier, we added some new sources of endurance charges. There's now a support to make Perfect Strike generate charges, and a support for generating endurance charges from heavy stuns
Perfect
as well.
time.
Speaking of
So
totems,
leap
we
slam
wanted to upgrade the
and
War
perfect time.
One of the other
Timing.
changes we've made to this class, Answered Call now gives an extra totem, and the spirits have just been generally buffed in many ways. Use it with your limitless ancestral warrior forest to make an army of Karui that would make Tukahama proud.
Yeah, but you're going backwards. You're making
We've
melee
also merged the Great
totems.
Wolf Howl and Warcaller's Bellow support, so you can get all the benefits with 1 point. And Encased in Jade no longer removes the Jade when getting hit, making it a much better defense. Next up, let's talk about accuracy. Accuracy was always intended to be something that warriors didn't need to care about very much so long as they're in close combat. But unfortunately, that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with. So we
Which is in the
significantly upped the chance
coding.
to hit at close ranges when you don't have much accuracy. Warriors shouldn't require any accuracy investment in order to hit with close range attacks now. We also wanted to improve armor. Now, one of the major weaknesses of armor is the inability to defend against elemental damage. In order to mitigate this, we're adding a lot more of the stat that allows your armor to defend against elemental damage. It's now available on items and in a lot more places on the passive tree. One of the most important improvements we've made in 030 is to declunk the action and flow of shooting crossbows. You can now reload crossbows without any movement penalty. But not only that, all skills that can be used while moving now slow you for a shorter amount of time. This change benefits everyone, not just crossbow skills. With both of these changes put together, the run and gun playstyle feels much better. It's hard to explain how important this change is for the feel of the class. The Mercenary is also a good chance to talk
You
about
run
how we're
around the
rebalancing
same
to make
area
comboing skills
killing
much
like
better.
10 creatures.
Take Shock, for example. It buffs damage and lasts 4 seconds right now, but that isn't really giving you enough time to take advantage of it. If you're going to add a lightning skill into a build that otherwise wouldn't use one, we need to make mechanics like this much better. So we've increased shock duration on monsters to last 8 seconds. And skills like Plasma Blast, which are intended to be good at shocking enemies, now increase the damage bonus by a lot more. You'll find changes like this all around the game. Chill now lasts 8 seconds, giving you more of a reason to weave in cold damage. Freezing skills are better at freezing. Burning skills need to cause burns that last longer. But making skills like Permafrost Bolts and Incendiary Shot double down on how they're supposed to be used, it makes using them in your build alongside other skills much more likely.
But you take
We're
10
also
years
making
to
sure
kill
buff
5
specific combos
creatures.
too. The freeze explosions from frag rounds now chain to nearby enemies.
That's
And using high
tower.
velocity rounds with armor break will now fragment the opponent's armor. This causes monsters to take a portion of high velocity rounds damage with every subsequent hit, even tiny pellets.
So armor thread's gonna
So that
be
means following up with a shotgun blast is way more
required.
effective. Now there's a lot more buffs to crossbow skills, but for now I'm just going to talk about the new one we added, the Mortar Cannon. This one lets you socket any grenade skill, and using it will summon a cannon which loads and then fires the grenade you choose.
Five
Another issue on
creatures,
Mercenary were banners.
10 years.
They were just not very good, so we're doing a big upgrade to them. They now last longer, don't disappear when moving out of them, and we removed the Valor mechanic. They now just give a much more consistent and stronger buff, and you can use them when you get enough glory. On which, one of the main focuses was making various minion types more useful to use together. Melee minions in particular were just not that great compared to ranged ones. As a starting point, we just straight up removed the requirement for minions to have accuracy. Attack minions now
It was
always
the
hit, which makes
spirit
them
that
way
was
better.
the holdback.
It's the new boss fights many times. Let's take a look at some examples. Rock Pools is a map where you explore a shallow rocky coastline, surrounded by coral and filled with sirens.
Pretty much Abyss is Abyss.
At the end
and
is a giant
what
goblin
it
king
adds
boss,
is
ready
meh.
to eat sulfite and squish you like a bug.
Sulfide, so they add and delve eventually.
Holton is an Ezomite township which has seen better days. Explore and clear the township to find a gothic, reaper-like boss, with the ability to manipulate storms and fry you with both lightning and wither you with chaos. Given some of the new bosses added are a bit more epic, such as the Act boss and final bosses of each interlude part, it would be a bit of a waste to just use them as regular map bosses. Instead, we'll be adding some new mechanics to the Atlas that use them. These start appearing pretty fast into the endgame and will help bridge the gap until you do your pinnacle bosses. In the desert biome, you can encounter a wild sandstorm. 3 maps around the sandstorm contain a device you must activate. Upon doing this, the sandstorm's magic is disrupted, revealing the map inside and allowing you to access it and find the cause. This presents itself in the form of a boss, similar to the existing Citadel bosses. This boss is a Faradin Swordmaster, who has been blessed with the power of a time gem, allowing him to take his swordsmanship to the next level by replicating himself, maneuvering rapidly, and severing the fabric of time itself with his powerful slashes. In the water biome, you'll encounter a giant maelstrom, where one of the maps surrounding the water biome connects to it, but the connection is obscured. You must run the maps nearby, hoping to find a beacon, which will remove the maelstrom and reveal the connection to that map. Another example is this Vaal Vault in the mountain biome.
Yeah, we get it.
How do we
You
get inside?
take out the
Running
nearest
the adjacent
ones.
maps to it will yield a key, which you can then use to gain, which as Jonathan spoke about earlier, are powerful support gems that modify your skills in pretty crazy ways. As an example of a lineage support which can come from the Faradin Swordmaster mentioned earlier, we have Garukhan's Resolve, which causes your critical strikes to fork, but requires some mobility on your part to properly enable. From the boss sealed in the Vaal Vault, we have Paquate's Pact, which supports your war cries, causing them to inflict massive amounts of corrupted blood at the cost of your own life. Additionally, some maps
It was
can now
doing
spawn
unending
summoning
damage.
secrets, a room resembling an Ezomite henge. Activating this henge will spawn bosses. It's as simple as that. We'll also be
So it's
making
strong
changes to how
boss.
affixes and waystones work. As the current prefixes equals good, suffixes equals bad, iteration isn't quite hitting the mark. We tried something new here in Path of Exile 2, but after seeing the feedback we decided we actually liked what we had in Path of Exile 1 more. Like Path of Exile 1, each affix will now be both difficult and rewarding. Waystone mods now grant an increase to the number of waystones dropped, and an additional specific upside attached to it. This means as you roll your map, they will continue to get more difficult and more rewarding, and allow you to customize the difficulty and rewards of your maps better. For example, the Frostbitten mod, which causes enemies to deal cold damage, also increases the rarity of items dropped as its upside. Whereas the Old
Good.
Venom suffix modifier, which causes enemies to poison on hit, has the upside of granting increased pack size. Some maps will end up having a lot of rarity, some a lot of pack size, and others will just have a mixture of everything. Due to now having more modifiers granting difficulty, we will of course be reducing the difficulty per modifier to account for this. So, that's your Atlas,
Believe that
maps,
when I
and
see it.
Waystones. But what about Breach, Ritual, Pinnacle content, and others of the sort? We're making some changes around this too. The first change is that you'll now be able to invest 2 points into your specific League Atlas trees before having to run the Pinnacle content. There will be a specific objective for each type of content which grants you those points.
Yeah, armor
For
shred
example, in the case
seems
of
like
Delirium,
it's a
simple.
must.
You just need to find and kill one of the bosses in a map, Omniophobia or Kosis. The rest of the points for each content come from the Pinnacle content, but we're making some changes to accessibility here too. Currently, access to most Pinnacle content requires the same key at the easiest and most difficult version of the content. This creates a negative feeling where at lower difficulties, instead of wanting to run the content, you're often better off just selling it to someone who can run it at maximum difficulty. To address this, each content will now drop splinters, which will not form into singular items. Instead of using the singular combined item in the realm gate, you can now just bring your splinters. Upon inserting the splinters into the realm gate, an interface will appear, allowing you to pick your difficulty, and you'll notice each difficulty has a different entry cost. This means if you want to run easier difficulties, it costs less, which also allows you to run this content much sooner into the endgame.
Still
Because these
worth
encounters now just
selling though.
require splinters, their corresponding Atlas tree no longer affects the difficulty of them, and has been changed to purely affect the content and maps on the Atlas. The Arbiter of Ash works a bit differently. Instead of requiring splinters, he still needs crisis fragments. We now have only 2 difficulties of the Arbiter. The first, requiring the existing fragments obtained from Citadels. The second, Uber Arbiter, requires Calamity fragments. These come from Citadel bosses also, but only once you've allocated the maximum number of points in your boss Atlas tree, ensuring those Citadels are at their highest difficulty level. Since we're talking about Pinnacle content, we also felt that the leveling curve in the late game was a bit too steep. We've smoothed this out a bit so that it's easier to get to the mid-90s. We've also added some new in-game unique items. Let's take a look at a couple. Thunderfist is a pair of gloves that grants Crackling Palm, a skill which empowers your unarmed attacks, granting the ability to call down the storms themselves on enemies you hit. Put simply, literally every monster you hit with your unarmed skills will be struck by powerful lightning. Pair this with the aforementioned Hollow Palm technique to embrace your true unarmed prowess in combat. Another unique we're adding is Henekura's Sight. Equip this amulet to be granted the power of the Mother of Death herself. This is reflected by granting you a skill called Foresight. While you have Foresight, your dodge roll no longer avoids hits, but instead, being hit while dodge rolling restores you to full life and makes you unable to die for a brief period of time. You'll notice when this does occur, a copy of your character appears and takes the full damage. This is you seeing
What's
that
the
future
cooldown?
as if you hadn't been wearing the amulet. Ultimately, your in-game experience should be more streamlined. With new content to find, you'll be able to invest in your Atlas trees sooner, engage with Pinnacle content faster, have less FOMO running said Pinnacle content, reach higher levels easier, and do all of that while finding many new
Wouldn't
chase
FOMO
in-game
was
items.
pointless.
Talking about finding items is one thing.
Unless you ran it on the max
What about
level, it was
crafting?
pointless because of the
We've
drops.
taken a step back and looked at some of our crafting systems to make some notable improvements. Let's start with essences. which suffered from an issue where the regular essences were effectively useless and didn't give players the tools or excitement that a crafting system should provide. To
There's no
alleviate these
crafting system.
concerns, essences are being changed in a
It's a
few
thing.
ways. Firstly, they're being changed to function like regals and add specific modifiers with specific values, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get. We found that players were often bottlenecked by regal orbs when crafting in the campaign, so this helps to fill that gap, allowing you to better upgrade your items.
But what if I
For
want
example,
strength?
this Lesser Essence of Flames, which will be able to add a flat amount of fire damage to your magic martial weapons. Secondly, we're adding many more tiers. That Lesser Essence of Flames, for example, has a regular variant and a greater variant too, adding even more fire damage with each upgrade.
Yeah, the stats shouldn't be.
The intention of this is so that when
Gamble.
you find one early on, you don't worry about holding onto it till later to use on a higher level item. You should feel free to use them as they come to get powerful upgrades during the campaign. Lastly, our highest tier of essences, now called Perfect Essences, will function like a Chaos Orb instead of a Regal. So it will replace one of the modifiers on your rare items with the specified mod. Such as this Perfect Essence of Flames.
That's
You'll notice
stupid.
this one doesn't just add flat fire damage like the ones before it. The Perfect Essences often give something a bit different, with some opportunities to be pretty damn powerful.
So you have a weapon you want,
There are many different essences.
you hit
each
it with the
many
essence,
tiers,
it's now broken,
covering
and
many
you
of
can't
the
use
more
it.
core modifiers you'd want on items early on, through to chase specialized ones for in-game. Speaking of in-game, we really wanted to expand our crafting options for late in-game.
Pretty much
crafting
just a
projects.
Val Orb.
You might have noticed that
Really?
in-game, you get way too many transmutes. Wouldn't it be nice if some of those didn't drop, but instead you got something a little more powerful? At higher levels, you can now find Greater Orb of Transmutation and Perfect Orb of Transmutation.
What?
These can be used on normal items to upgrade them to magic, ensuring that the modifier generated is of a minimum level. This is similar to how you find higher tier items on the ground, but for crafting. These higher tiers will also exist for Orb of Augmentation,
Why not just add
Regal Orb,
drops that are worthwhile instead of adding more
and Chaos Orb,
currency?
meaning you can get all of the orbs required to take your item from normal rarity to a fully completed rare with guaranteed high tier mods. On top of these new core crafting currencies, we wanted to make sure there are powerful crafting bases to use them on. Now in endgame, you can start to find exceptional items.
Ew.
These are items that drop at normal rarity and are perfect for your from-scratch crafting projects. They can come with extra quality, up to 30%, or an additional socket to use your crafting socketables in. And yes, they can be corrupted for yet another socket. You can also get exceptional unique items. To add even further to your crafting arsenal, we've added a whole suite of new omens to ritual content, and removed some of the more unimpactful ones that weren't being used. Some of the new omens include the Omen of the Ancients, which will cause your next Orb of Chance to not destroy the item, but generate a random unique of the same class. Or the Omen of Sanctification, which is my new favorite. This will cause your next Divine Orb used on a rare item to re-roll the values of its modifiers, allowing it to exceed the normal minimum and maximum values, raising the ceiling on the new most powerful rare items in the game. This omen will also cause your item to become sanctified. Sanctified items cannot be crafted, just like corrupted ones, so consider carefully when you use this. Another is the Omen of Chaotic Monsters, which will cause your next Chaos Orb to re-roll all modifiers on a waystone, allowing you to fix your maps if you get some modifiers that are not feasible for your build.
But you have to do ritual.
Besides these
or
examples,
buy 'em
there is a huge variety
first.
of new omens for you to discover in your ritual encounters. With the release of Act 4, notably taking place
Really?
in the Karuri Archipelago, you'll be able to now find a new currency item, Henikora's Lock.
You mean
Henikora,
reused?
The Karuri goddess of death has the power of foresight, and is able to see many futures, including the outcome of your next craft. So, imbuing her lock onto an item gives you that same power too.
Yeah, it's in
example,
PoE 1.
you'll know whether or not to use an Exalted Orb on your item, as you will know exactly what the outcome is. So, with all these new crafting improvements, it's safe to say you're going to be making some epic items, and not necessarily just ones for yourself. So given that, it's time to talk about a massive one.
They're not
Trade.
improvements.
It's
One or two
finally
things
here.
are
The
better.
moment we've all been waiting for. Fully asynchronous trade.
Over the years, the way players trade with each other in Path of Exile 1 has morphed from using the forums, through to the in-game chat, all the way through to using the website. These systems, in all their iterations, work for a while, but with each iteration new problems eventually reveal themselves. Be it requiring you to be in your hideout too much instead of out there killing monsters, or never getting responses from people who are either AFK or just can't be bothered. In order to finally solve this, and this has been a long time coming, we're adding a new system that allows you to buy items from other players without requiring the seller to be present. They can continue farming, killing monsters, AFK as they please, and can even be offline. With the introduction of King's March in Act 4, you will encounter Ange, assistant to Rog in the Meridian Free Traders Company. Over the last 2 decades or so, since Path of Exile 1's storyline, Faustus has handed down his knowledge and expertise to Ange, and she is now ready to take over his business. If you
But
have
what
a
does it
hideout
have?
unlocked already, you can immediately invite her there. If you don't have a hideout yet, you will need to acquire one. You can do this by completing a quest to defeat one of the bosses inhabiting an island in Act 4, allowing you then to take a slice of it for yourself, making it your new home and base of operations. Once invited to your hideout, she
Show
will now
what she
serve
does.
as operating your currency exchange, but also serve as the figurehead in your new trading empire. So, how does this new system work? In the existing trade system, you would list items for sale in premium stash tabs. And then when someone wanted one, you'd have to take it out for yourself and trade it to them. Now, instead of using those, you can give your items to Ange so she can sell them for you. Each item must have a price set. The prices are set using in-game currency items, such as Exalted Orbs or Chaos Orbs. Once a price is set, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it on the trade website.
A lot of sniping
Once
gonna
a
happen.
desired item has been found, you can hit a button, which will instantly teleport your character in-game to their hideout. Then, you can immediately purchase the item. And while there, if you want, browse their other goods, in case there's a good deal someone else hasn't yet discovered. You'll notice that as a buyer, on top of the currency the seller set for the price, it also costs gold to purchase an item, as Ange has bills to pay after all. As a seller, you'll immediately receive a notification when an item of yours is sold, and can also see an effect above Ange in your hideout when she has unclaimed currency.
And she holds the currency.
Just go talk to her, claim your currency, and continue playing at your leisure.
I like it.
As many people already acquired premium stash tabs for the purpose of the trade system, we wanted to add a way for you to convert your existing tabs to merchants tabs, if you want.
What?
You can do that here, on the website, but only if you purchase those tabs before the release of the third edict. To clarify, the existing trade system will remain fully intact, so your premium stash tabs will not lose any of their functionality. We just figured people might want to switch over to this new system. We expect a lot of feedback around this new system.
So you
and I'm
lose a
looking
tab
forward to
for
trying it out
PoE
with
1.
you. As we are not able to test internally with an entire, thriving economy, there will certainly be some kinks to work out. Based on how the system goes, we will be adding it to Path of Exile 1 when ready, so any of the tabs you purchase will also be usable there later. Next up, we're going to be talking
Okay.
about our new supporter packs.
Yeah, don't care.
Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs. The Justice and Trathan Executioner packs. Each tier contains
Okay, so in summary, it's adding Abyss, Veiled modifiers, 1 or 2 good crafting things, The big thing is actually the merchant tab, so you don't have to try to get all your stuff off players that either can't be bothered or just won't sell it, or they're actually holding it for streamers and stuff to buy cheap. And yeah, that's about it. The rest of it needs to be seen to test. They can have all the pretty displays and all that. Most of the skills weren't killing anything. The endgame stuff never had any damage stuff when they were actually doing one-shots. So all of it needs to be seen and played and all that to actually know whether it's any good. But pretty much, easier trading, Abyss drops seem Veil modifiers, a couple of good crafting things that more endgame-ish, and yeah, that's about it. So whatever my take was at the time was my take at the time, and yeah, it's not like, yes, I want to play today type reveal in my opinion, but let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.